we have three-time guest now, Michael W. Smith. He just released a brand new song called Arms Around the Sun. Michael, thanks so much for chatting with me.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So, man, they say, I don't know what they say, but just know that when I heard this song, I was so blown away. It really reminds me of Eye to Eye, the big picture type stuff. I love the sound. I love everything about it. I love the message of your new song, Arms Around the Sun. Do you mind telling our viewers and our listeners about the song?
Yeah. Well, I co-wrote it with one of my dear friends, Michael Olson, who used to be an artist on Rocketown Records. He's now a worship leader in Florida. He's one of my best friends, and he's a poet. We write songs from time to time, and he knew I was in the middle of a project, and he also knows I'm sort of I am in awe of the stars. Always have been. I wanted to be an astronaut when I was a kid, and but whatever. I said, do you have anything in that vein? And I started sort of writing some music. All this 80s kind of melodies were just kind of falling out of the sky. Well, he sent me this this line that said, I can't see the wind, but it's filling up my lungs. Providence before beginning had begun. I believe you are a love that never ends, but trying to get my head around you is like trying to wrap my arms around the sun, S-U-N. And I just thought, that is unbelievable. I just that's incredible. And then it somehow miraculously matched up with this synth thing that I was doing.
Yeah.
Then it sort of spurred me on to make the change to the A minor 7 and the G over C and the D. And all of a sudden I started singing this melody. So I started voice texting and texting back and forth to Michael. I said, bro, I think I've got something here. So then he starts writing verses, and then I start and write music. Before you know it, we had a song. And then we tweaked back and forth. What if we said that different? And what if you sang that different? But it was beautiful. It just so beautifully came together. Yeah, I could not be happier with it. It took a long time. It was mix 63. That's how many mixes we went through to sort of get it just where I wanted it. I'm just my wife she makes fun of me. She's going, I don't even know what you're talking about. Well, I hear it. There's something in my head I'm going for, and we have to get there, So, and we finally did with Ted T producing along myself, and man, we're having a blast. We really are.
Yeah. Your team said that, they were trying to wait to release some new stuff closer to your album. And you were like, I just love this. So I'm so glad you did.
Well, it's a different day too. I mean, everybody's sort of doing that in the singles. I mean, I'm still a big believer in albums and listen to an album from start to finish. And I think this record's going to really hold together in terms of listening to the whole record. But I thought, why not release a single, in April? And I think there'll be another one in about 8 weeks, and there'll be another one in 8 weeks. So you'll potentially hear 3 or 4 songs before the record comes out.
Now, is the whole album kind of that style, like the synth style? Or
I would say maybe not as heavy synth as that. There's 2 or 3 that's pretty heavy synth, like Arms Around the Sun.
Okay.
But it's all very progressive. It's the most up songs I've ever had on a record, which are hard to write. But there's a little Ed Sheeran influence. There's a little Tears for Fears. And then there's these worshipful moments, and there's a song about communion that I'm really, really excited about. I have this simple ballad called Goodbye that might just be piano and me. There's definitely some variety, but I'd say 75% of it, 80% is sort of like, it's like roll down your windows, summertime, and crank it up.
Yeah. So how did the whole thing with Jonathan Roumie come up? I said, whoa, Jesus is playing drums for him.
Oh, well, Jonathan's gotten to become a dear friend of mine. And so here in Nashville, and, so we're always talking and having lunch, doing whatever. And so we get this whole thing about music. He tells me he's a drummer. I'm going, I didn't know you were a drummer. So he tells me about him playing a jazz band growing up and all the stuff he did. And I said, look, I got this amazing studio. I've got this old historical house and my drum kit set up, and we'll just come over and play. And he's going, oh, I'd love that. So he comes over and play. Well, Ted just happened to be here dropped by, and we had the track Arms Around the Sun up. And so we just played Arms, and then he starts playing and going, whoa, wait a minute, this guy really can play drums. And then he found out we were hitting record, and I think he kind of semi-freaked out, going, wait a minute, whoa. No, I'm rusty. I'm a little rusty. And I said, well, you sound pretty good to me. So we just hit record 3-4 times, and he pulled it off, and we kept it. And so when it came to the video, I know he's such a busy guy and making movies, and obviously The Chosen. But I said,
Walking on Water, things like that.
Walking on Water, and I said, would you like to be in the video? He said, I'd love to. And so it all worked out, and he had a blast.
Yeah. Tell us about that video. I love like the big screen concept. I mean, that screen had been massive. I mean, it was pretty sweet.
It's a $3 million LED wall.
Woo!
And the place is called View. It's a VU. It's a new big soundstage studio in Nashville. And I'd done something before, but nothing like that. And so when I was kind of thinking about the video, I wanted to hire a young kid, which I did. He's 23 years old, named Harrison Shook. And we just started talking about the song. I started talking about my whole thing for space and all that sort of thing. And so, we just started talking about just let's do something really, really creative. And I didn't want it to be I just didn't want it to be a performance video only. The last thing I want to do is just see myself in the video, honestly. I mean, can we tell a story, and it doesn't have to be linear. It doesn't really have to make a lot of sense, but can you say something in the video and sort of have some actors? And so I have an affinity for and a love for the 80s and Spielberg, and we started talking about the films that we like, and there's Stranger Things, which has got the old crazy thing, and so we just wanted to give it a real vintage, a kind of an 80s thing, honestly. And so we loved actors. Harrison did a great job casting them. And I think there's some hidden things in the video. You see mom and dad's trying to figure out, well, the kids get it. It's like the faith of a child. There's just little things you pick up that every time you kind of watch it, you kind of pick up something else going, oh, that kind of makes sense. So, but man, we had a blast doing it, and a lot of great response on the video. You just never know, because everybody makes live videos. There's not too many people who are making concept videos. And I was just adamant that we're going to make a concept video on this song. And we did.
I would say you and the only other group I could think of that's doing that still is For King and Country. They do that too.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
But I was thinking when I watched the music video, I said, man, all he's missing is like his old 80s outfits.
I still have a few of those jackets hanging around. So.
Yeah. You got to wear them if you when you go on tour for this album.
Yeah, I'll put one on.
Do you have any idea when you are thinking of a release for the album?
I think it's this fall.
Okay.
I mean, I think if everything goes as planned, there's a lot of work to do, but we've really got all the songs, which is a miracle in of itself.
Yeah.
And now it's just, it's just me doing the vocals and just finishing up little fixes here with the lyrics to make sure they're dead on. And, we're missing a few little ingredients, but it's all doable. And what makes it just a little bit more difficult is I start a tour here next week, and so trying to squeeze in recording and come home for 3 days, and then it's all that. Then I'm off to Berlin, then I'm off to Europe, and but I think we have a plan. I think we can get it done. So, but I am excited about releasing at least 2 more singles before the record comes out. I think that's probably the right thing.
Yeah. Well, we're really excited, and Michael, this is your best work yet. Like Arms Around the Sun, it's incredible.
Well,
and I listened to it again like 3 times today. I was like, man, I just can't get enough of it. It's so good.
Sounds good on your phone. I just can't believe how good it sounds like on your iPhone. And
yeah,
and I go back and go, wait a minute. I mean, is it really this? And I'm not saying this is, when I say it's this good, this is teamwork. This is teamwork. And the drums are like massive. You listen to the snare drum, it's massive. And it's Ted. It's Ted and Jake Holm, the engineer, just them creating these musical moments of brilliance and taking more sort of my idea, my synth idea, and because I kept saying the drums have got to be big, that they got to be massive, like the Bennett House. The Bennett House was a old studio that we recorded Eye to Eye in and Lead Me On with Amy. If you go back and listen to Eye to Eye, listen to the drums. They're because they're massive because your Bennett House was an old historical house just like my house that had plaster, 12-foot ceilings, and hardwood floors.
Mm.
So you set up microphones in different rooms all around the house, and so you just create this thing. And so every time Ted walks in my studio, he almost drools. Going, this is Bennett House too. This is Bennett House too. I love it because he loves how the drums sound in this house, and they sound that way because we recorded them in my studio. So, and they sound like that on the other songs as well. So, but the drums are great, and just the Jacob Lowry playing, but everything and you know what? It did take 63 mixes. It was crazy because you try to record so many things, and there's only so much space for information. I remember we got to mix 43, and I said, Ted, go back and listen to mix 16. And he did. He said, I get it, boss. I get it. So you start having to pull things out because you just want to keep trying stuff. And so there's 160 tracks, and there's not room for 160 things, So we simplified it. We sort of really got intentional about what needed to be in the track, and then I guess the rest is history.
Well, very exciting. We mentioned for King Country earlier. It's incredible to turn on the radio and hear "Place in This World" again. And I've heard the story of how all that happened with you and Joel and Luke. But how's that feel to you, Michael? A song that you wrote so many years ago, resurging, and it's like a top song now. Played on K-Love and all the other ones.
Yeah. It's rewarding. I've always, I guess that doesn't really happen very often. To have a song that was a hit 35 years ago and to sort of see it come back around. Maybe not 35. Is it 35? Yeah, it is 35 years ago. It came out in 1990. So, I'm just grateful, and I'm grateful that Joel and Luke gave me a call, and obviously Rebecca was auditioning the song, when she was trying to get a record deal. So, and there was something about the Go West Young Man that I think was somewhat of a part of the fabric of that family's life and in the midst of all that they were doing. And so they're the ones who called and said, hey, we got a wild idea. And I had no idea what they wanted to talk about. And I said, well, come to my studio. I said, no, you got to come to my house. All right, I'll come to your house. So I sat in there and Joel just said, this is what we'd love to do. And want to know if you'd be okay with it. Not only be okay with it, but would you participate in the song? And that's how I got reacquainted with Ted T, because I've always admired Ted's work. I've always wanted to work with him. Well, Ted's co-producing this soundtrack, for King Country. And I look at him going, why have we not worked together? And he said, I don't know. I says, okay, we're going to work together on the next record. And so crazy, I think the King and Country thing had something now to do with Ted and I making this record. And here we got the first song out called Arms Around the Sun. So I love how God is in all the details.
Absolutely. 100%. Well, Michael, you may or may not know this, but this is a fan-based podcast. And so we have listeners, viewers writing in questions all the time to people like you. And we had a fan of yours, Levi from Kentucky. He wants to know the story behind your classic song, Kentucky Rose.
Ooh, I love that.
And if you knew who that was.
You know what? Kentucky Rose is it's fiction. I'm sure there's been stories like that where that's actually really happened. I just remember when I wrote the music and when I got Wayne Kirkpatrick in the room with me and told Wayne, I think this is a story song. I think there's a story here. And the only words that I had when I wrote it, because I'm singing in tongues, I'm singing gibberish, or gibberish, how do you say it? Gibberish, whatever. I just sing vowels and sometimes I'll find a word. But the only 2 words I had was Kentucky Rose. I said, Wayne, it's got to be called Kentucky Rose. And I think Kentucky Rose is a man. And Wayne said, what if he was a preacher? What if he was a farmer? And so we just started to chat about it. And all of a sudden, Wayne started crafting this lyric about this preacher man who actually was a pastor. And he obviously sees his kid drowning, goes in and saves the kid, but loses his life because of what he did. Yeah, that's the short story behind that song.
There you go. Great. Well, Michael, what is next for you, and how can our viewers and listeners keep up with you?
Well, I started a tour, Beyond the Far Horizon tour. I think that big tour will be in 26, honestly, but we're going to go out in the spring and do 15 or 16 shows. We're going to go out in the fall and do the same. Like I said earlier, I'm off to Berlin next month, and I'm off to Europe for 2 weeks. But I mean, mainly I'm trying to finish an album, and that's sort of my main objective, and to get ready for the tour. And I'm excited because we're gonna play Arms Around the Sun in 8 days.
Nice.
And probably Kingdom Come, which might be the second single. I'll give that away. Nobody knows what the titles are. So yeah, I'm just excited about playing some new songs. Yeah, so it's gonna be a busy year.
Yeah. Well, and today was announced a Christmas tour with Amy and Cece, so that's exciting.
There's that too. Never a dull moment in the Smith camp.
Yeah. Now, are you, after that tour with them, are you doing more shows, or is that the only?
Yeah, I won't do as many. Like I did 26 last year. It was just
a lot.
Oh my word! And we started before Thanksgiving. I won't do that. I think we'll do the 9 shows, with all 3 of us. And I think I go to Florida and do like 4 or 5, and then I'll come home and end in Nashville at the Fisher Center with 3 nights with the symphony.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, to wrap up, I'd like to see if you'd be willing to share something that God's been doing in your life recently that would help build our viewers and listeners' faith.
Ooh, I could talk about that for an hour. I think it's a continuous thing, honestly. 2 things. Turn off your phone. And I'm really kind of convicted that, I'm always just checking out what's the latest on the news or what's the latest on this. And it wears me out, and it stunts my creativity. And I don't think we're meant to look at our phones all the time. So that's mainly a sort of a conviction thing of mine, that I'm really trying to kind of put my phone down, stay off of social media, which wears me out when I get on. I mainly get on for sort of ministry aspects of some people I'm sort of trying to love on. And then just being still. Just being, be still and know that I'm God. And sometimes, at least I know in America, I'm sure all around the world, but we just move at such a fast pace. And I don't think that's what God intended. So find that farm, find that park, find that place where you can just shut it all off and just be still. And so that's something that I'm striving to do in the right way. You don't want to strive, but I mean, it's just being obedient. And I find that when I do that, I'm refreshed. I feel better. I see better. Everything just kind of comes a lot more clear when I do that. So that's my goal here, starting now.
Nice.
And hopefully it'll be for those who are watching as well.
Yeah. Well, Michael, thank you so much for chatting with me. Arms Around the Sun is available everywhere where you stream music. New single, another one coming out in, you said, about 8 weeks or so. So be looking out for that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.